Hello, and welcome to Survival of the Thickest. And I want to start today's episode by admitting to something.
Yeah, go on then.
Well, I did something not so long ago that I vowed I'd never do.
Was this Vom in the pub in Cambridge?
No.
Okay. Something else?
It was taking your advice on something.
Cheers. Okay, what did you take my advice on?
Well, I think not so long ago in the podcast, you mentioned that last sort of academic year, you made a habit of staying up late, but like doing work late.
Yeah,
And
well,
so-
I always found I can't work when it's busy, so I go in the library when it's really quiet at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Now, I wasn't in the library. I was in my room in here, and I just couldn't sleep. It was like 1 o'clock, and I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And obviously, this isn't something for a podcast listener.
No.
You can't see this, but of course, my room has this window with no curtain on it. And now some would say, "Well, Cameron, why don't you just cover it up with something?
Yeah,
That's not difficult." And to that, I say, "Well, I'm a lazy person."
We all know that.
No, that's what I'm about, and I'm not going to go to any lengths to improve my night's sleep.
Nice.
If it puts me out for like 15 minutes. And so my neighbour just loves to switch on his lights at like 1:30 to about 2:30.
Yeah.
That's just his thing. I don't know what he does. The number of times I've thought, I'm going to ask him. Tonight I'm going to ask him what's going on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You know how it is. Sometimes you're like, I just can't sleep. My brain is awake.
Yeah, you're thinking about stuff maybe, I don't know, or maybe exactly you're not thinking about anything.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes nothing has to be on your mind at all.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be stressed about something. You're just like, I'm not getting anywhere here. So I was like, screw this. I'm gonna do some bloody work.
Yeah.
I can't take this
Motivated.
anymore.
What did you do then?
I did some research for a poster that I've got to do
Nice, yeah.
next week, and this is another funny thing. To be fair, the poster itself, I had a choice of at least 20 different topics, but for the sake of the throwback to the summer, I was given the option, and I took the option to do a poster on the effects of ozone on wheat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Turns out not great.
first-hand experience you'll have at that. The effect of ozone on wheat is that less of it gets picked, because I get hotter when I'm trying to pick it in the summer. If we had an ozone lane, I wouldn't get so hot and I could pick more wheat. There you go.
You're actually going down the wrong track.
Oh, am I?
I'm amazed that we're actually going to get some proper content into this is a sort of throwaway funny thing, but I'm going to give you some hard biology.
Yeah, go on then.
Right, so of course you've got the ozone in the sort of the ozone layer, which is sort of commonly known.
Yeah.
But of course you get like atmospheric ozone as well. You get ground level ozone, and
I didn't know that.
Well, it happens because, it's got a lot to do with the pollutants from car exhaust, sulfur. So like your nitrous oxides, your sulfurs and stuff.
Yeah.
What happens is they react with light in a certain way, and what that does is it increases sort of the ground level ozone.
I never knew that.
Well,
So do you get more greenhouse effect then? As in...
Not. It's not even about that. What happens is, because there's more ozone in the atmosphere, particularly in the afternoon and stuff, when it's the hottest, when there's the most light.
Yeah.
It's got a very obvious sort of diurnal pattern, and so the ozone will get in the leaf, and by its very nature of being ozone rather than oxygen, it's going to disrupt photosynthesis. It's going to reduce the rate of that. It's going to cause more free radical formation. So that's generally going to cause a lot more sort of oxidative stress.
Mm-hmm.
It basically just ruins
Less
the plant. Less wheat, yeah. Wheat
So
yields.
there we have confirmed from 5 minutes that more ozone equals less wheat.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is that they think that because, it's from pollutants and stuff, so it can all come under the same banner-ish as climate change. What's kind of cool is that, of course, by increasing CO2 levels, that's actually quite good.
Good for the plant.
But what some people are saying is that the effect of ozone is going to completely negate any of the benefits
of having a lot
to
of CO2
to European growers of having increased CO2.
Well, once again, Cam, you have made wheat sound more interesting than I ever thought it was.
Made it more interesting than it perhaps is.
And think, oh, thank God for, I don't know, thank God our ozone layer isn't too bad, because my Cheerios just would only have 4 different types of grain in than 5.
Well, that's the thing to remember, is that
Yes.
ozone layer good, ground ozone levels bad.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'd learnt something there. I genuinely didn't even know there was more than 2 layers, or I don't know what you were going with there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was going to say, speaking of poster, that's probably your first bit of coursework of the year, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
How's it looking?
I was thinking as well to our few listeners out there. We've got a couple these days.
Yeah.
But thank you, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
They're just gonna get so sick of me going on about the same thing.
Okay.
All of my modules are like climate change based and sort of human impact on the biosphere and know the effects of plants and agriculture. So you're not going to get an incredibly diverse
range of topics about Cameron's
but honestly,
modules.
on a week we can spare, there's hope that we might just spark some interest with something completely different.
Actually, you say that, and that leads quite on nicely into what I was going to talk about. To start with. So obviously I'm a year behind you. I'm in my second year, which means I still have a little bit more range of interesting stuff. I've got some, animal biology, physiology and stuff like that. One of my modules is on parasites and viruses, and pathogens in general, essentially. And just as a kind of throwaway mention, did you ever watch CinemaSins, the YouTube channel?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. The parasite of the internet, yes.
Nice. So if you don't
is that
know,
what you're going for?
No,
I'm not sure.
No, if you don't know, CinemaSins is a video channel that critiques films for their most common flaws. And one of the flaws it comes up with is every time in the plot of a particularly boring film where the character of the film describes a story that's more interesting than the story of the film itself. Have you heard of that before? Like, that's a common thing they kind of bring up on the show. And it's like, oh, so-and-so talks about a story that's more interesting than the film itself. You know, that kind of thing. Well, do you ever find you get that in lectures? Because I get that in lectures all the time when they're like, oh, and actually, you can do this with bacteria. But we won't go into detail about that. And I'm like, but that's more interesting than this lecture.
Please do.
So I was like, right, okay, well, I'll take a stand. I'll do this myself. I will go away and I'll have a little read. So essentially, this was this lesson on bacteria, or lecture on bacteria. And I found out, obviously, one of my favourite episodes was the ones on the Larsen C ice shelf and the 9 Mile Crack. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah. I remember it.
Good,
I'm actually on this show as well.
Are you?
So I'm quite closely.
I didn't realise, but obviously, if you freeze anything, it keeps it kind of,
It suspends it rather than kills it. Yeah.
And I found out about the very terrifying idea that there are bacteria that are thousands of years old, still in that ice, frozen and ready to go and kill us all.
Yeah. But I mean, surely, obviously, there's something a bit more dramatic about the fact that it's frozen in the ice, and it's like that's thousands and thousands of years old because you know how long that ice has been there.
Yeah.
But is that so drastically different to that? Like, of course, there are just as many bacteria in the soil that may never surface.
Well, that's true, yes, but the thing is, obviously, the ice caps are melting. We're all going to die. Well,
yeah, that's what makes it a bit more dramatic.
And also, obviously, ever since penicillin, bacteria has evolved, hasn't it? Like, obviously, we keep
It's been evolving
all
before
the time,
then,
but we keep on top of it. And it's just this idea that there will be bacteria released from ice when it's melted, and we'll be like, penicillin, and it will do naff all. Because it would have been such like a basic form. It might be so different from modern bacteria that there's not much we can do about
anything it's acting on.
Almost like a Pandora's box. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah.
All another reason to stop those ice caps melting. Because I don't want some weird stuff.
Well, we'll do our best. But I think it's our kids that are bearing the brunt of that burden.
Yeah, true. This came up because of what my lecturer said, and I went away. And in August 2016, in a remote corner of Siberian tundra called the Yarmil Peninsula in the Arctic Circle, a 12-year-old boy died, and at least 22 were hospitalized after being infected by anthrax.
Wow.
The theory is that over 75 years ago, a reindeer infected with anthrax died, and its frozen carcass became trapped under a layer of frozen soil, known as permafrost. There it stayed until a heatwave in the summer of 2016 when the permafrost thawed. This exposed the reindeer corpse and released infectious anthrax into nearby water and soil, and then into the food supply. More than 2,000 reindeer grazing nearby became infected, which then led to the small number of human cases. Now, obviously, that's only 75 years ago, this deer died, but principle stands.
That anything can die in there.
Of anything.
In any time, yeah.
And it still wants. It's a slightly worrying thought, to be honest.
Well, just probably holidaying somewhere other than Antarctica then.
Yeah. In the earliest 20th century alone, more than 1 million reindeer died from anthrax. It is not easy to dig deep graves, so most of these carcasses are buried close to the surface, scattered among 7,000 burial grounds in northern Russia. So don't go to northern Russia. I wouldn't want to go to Russia anyway, but especially not now. But just think, what kind of, I don't know, the Black Death, the plague... Stuff like that.
What, just lingering in an ice cap
somewhere? It's a terrifying thought. I don't know. It's a little bit kind of Hollywood disaster movie thing. Do you know what I mean? Oh, that sounds like a plot.
Oh, yes. We need. Right, so we can agree now, before we release this episode, let's get the trademark knocked down for this movie concept.
Hollywood disaster movie based on infectious diseases being... released from ice caps.
Because I have no doubt that, Martin Scorsese,
they all
James Cameron, the minute they hear this, we're out of pocket for millions.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan, the Dark Knight trilogy, I reckon, this would be it's a great concept. Actually, speaking of disaster movies, I was watching The Day After Tomorrow. Have you watched The Day After Tomorrow?
Do you mean the... No. I was thinking of something else. I actually made myself look more foolish there.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Have you seen The Day After
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Let it go. I don't think I have.
Oh, well, it starts off and they're on an ice shelf in Antarctica and they're drilling away. And it's actually the Larsen B ice shelf. And I was like,
there's a
funny
throwback.
There you go. That was all I had to say on that. I watched that the other day.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because in one of my lectures... recently, in this semester, talking about human impact on... So it was the effects of previous mining and how sort of the discard heap, the slag heap, or whatever it's called, I can't remember. But it, obviously, it's still got all the trace metals that have been mined up, but they haven't been refined.
Yeah.
So they still contaminate the soil in the same way, right? And the case that he pulled... was that place in Wales, the Paris...
No, really?
The same one. And you want to know what's even better, right?
That's so cool. Go on.
So I didn't actually register this. I was like, okay, I'm on board with this lecture. Obviously, there's this mountain and previous mining activity.
Yeah.
And the girl sat next to me, my girlfriend as it happens, she says, oh, I know about this. We know about this. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it was on the podcast, wasn't it? I'm like, yes. That's an avid, committed listener there. She's like, yeah, I remember this. This is this is all relevant. I've heard of this.
Oh, that's really sweet.
No,
I
but
like
also
that.
that really it helped me sat there because it contextualised it for me, and I was like, yeah, I remember when Ruben pulled the coin out of his wallet that he'd stuck in
The copper.
at the old copper mine.
Yeah.
Because of course all those trace metals, it's gonna increase the acidity.
Yeah.
Of the water.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Oh.
And it was
pretty sweet. There you go. What goes around comes around, kind of. A small world, hey, of acidic mines.
Yeah. Acidic mines in the UK.
Yeah.
Turns out it's a small world.
So back to ice caps, and I don't know why it can, but we seem to be getting a collection of topics that consistently come up on this show. I feel like we just need to just make a show on these topics. So ice shelves in Antarctica seems to come up a fair bit. Paris Mountains now come up twice. Meat and the environment. We're back at this stop again. This always comes up, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. I guess that's.
I think it comes up a fair bit.
They're fairly relevant topics in the modern world.
True. We're on topic,
and we are the cutting edge of of science reporting.
Well, I was on Reddit the other day.
Here we go.
Always a good start to a story. No. Reddit is a great place. And I was on the page of r-science, which is a general kind of science news discussion subreddit or thread. And they have, all Reddits have a series called AMA, which means Ask Me Anything. So someone describes themselves and then puts AMA at the end of their sentence, and people are persuaded to ask questions. And I saw a great AMA come up the other day, which was beef without cows, sushi without fish, milk without animals. We're cellular agricultural scientists, non-profit leaders, and entrepreneurs. Ask us anything. Or ask me anything. And I had a read through, a very interesting read. People were asking some excellent questions, and I thought I'd just like to share a few of those and see what you think or make of them. So, someone says here, as a huge meat lover, I am excitedly looking forward to artificially grown meat to hit the market. What would you say are the greatest challenges in creating a product that tastes close to the real thing? I've heard things about the texture being wrong due to the fact that grown tissue is not the same as animal and gets some exercise. So what this person here is saying.
For me, that's reminiscent of stuff like Quorn, because of course that's it's not artificial meat in the same way. Because I think what they're referring to is literally making a chicken breast through cellular processes, whereas Quorn is using a different microbe or whatever. Yeah. So I guess it's similar in the sense that they're trying to they're trying to feign the real product.
Yeah.
When
Jess Krieger is the name of one of these scientists that has replied, says one of the greatest challenges for recreating the taste of meat from livestock seems to be adding the fat cells to artificial meat. The presence of fat heavily influences the taste. Additionally, like you mentioned, muscle cells mature and develop with exercise, which is one of the reasons why veal has a different texture than steak from an adult cow. We can exercise the meat in a bioreactor, which sounds so cool, with electricity to improve similarity of cultured meat.
They just tense the meat.
That's so weird. So you get your slab of artificially grown meat, you whack some prongs in there, and then put on an AC current.
I would love to see like an artificial chicken breast just pulsing. How cool would that be?
It would look quite cool. Now we're going down the lines of, but is it a living thing? So another one here is even lab-grown meat doesn't just grow out of nothing. What types of raw materials are needed, and where do they come from? Are the resources available already? Would the conversion farmland of required to feed livestock be enough to provide the raw materials for the world's lab-grown meat supply? So it's saying all the farmland that's used to grow stuff.
So would it be self-sustaining in that way?
Yeah.
Well, I would have thought that surely it takes even less.
Some of the raw materials would be food for the cells, such as protein and sugars, in addition to water, and other media components. We already have these materials available to us, since they are readily used in cell culture experiments. The trick is to make the production of media components scalable. Additionally, much less farmland will be needed to produce raw materials for cultured meat. You are only growing the meat, which is less mass to support in comparison to growing the whole cow over its entire life cycle.
That's so true.
Which is obviously referring to, like efficiency in terms of a food chain
absolutely,
or something like that.
Everything everything that you put into that cell will go into the meat. Whereas we've got a massive problem of, all the arable farmed land that we have and use, and yet we give so much of that to our livestock.
Yeah.
If you cut out the middleman, this is okay. I'm well on board. Let's fund this.
I know, it was good. I like this one. Is there any particular food type, beef? Now I'm tired. Beef, fish, etc., that have proven to be more complicated to accurately create, or that you all think may be more difficult to create?
What's the most complicated meat?
Yeah. Simpler cuts of meat will be the easiest to produce. For example, white meat from poultry is less structurally complex than red meat from cow, since it contains less vascular, meaning less myoglobin.
Well, as soon as they said the most complicated thing is fat, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking anything that's like a nice marbled steak, the ones with the nice
I could have one of those.
dripping fat vein running through it. The ones, the delicious ones. They're obviously going to be the most complicated because, it is the sort of shape and style, if you will, that it is because it fits in that place of the cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might mean bacon's a way away. That's a shame. Because bacon's
quite complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not complicated when you're asking yourself, what am I going to have in my sandwich? But there you go. Oh, that was terrible.
First on the list.
Well, anyway, they were some of my favourite questions. If you want to read any more, I will put the link in the description.
Yeah, that is really cool.
There you go.
I can really get on board with that.
Oh, hang on. Someone says here, my burning question is, when will this be available commercially, if you had to give a rough estimate? And one of the scientists replies, I can't find the reply.
Well, of course, the key problem there is that there will be enough of a portion of society that will go, this is science gone mad, this is GM, this is... and all that stuff. And... they're well within their right to be cautious. I've done this before.
Yeah.
They're well within their right to be cautious, but they shouldn't, run away in the face of significant technological progress.
No,
like this could be a really cool, good thing. But let's be careful.
I was going to say, if they turn around and say this is GM, I'll just turn around and say it's not GM. It's not genetically modified. It's genetically created. It hasn't been modified. There was nothing there until we used genetics.
Also, you're creating matter now. Are you God? Do you think you're God?
Creating matter. Right, okay. I'm just creating a burger. It's not that difficult. It is something I could honestly get behind. The idea of having meat grown in a dish. I'm fine with that. I'm
adamantly against corn. I think it's gross.
Yeah,
there you
exactly.
Go.
I'm totally...
Where's the logic there? Hypocrites. That's
well, no,
what we are.
I think it's just this idea of
Well, like I was explaining earlier, it's obviously different because they're making, with what you're saying, they're making the exact product.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one is, using microorganisms to create fungus that they've got certain
that looks like meat, kind of tastes like meat, has kind of the same texture.
Yeah, so it's not the same. Whereas yeah.
Oh, there you go. I would have a grown meat burger. We've learnt something new today. Right then, have you got anything to talk about? Anything at all?
Well, yeah. It's funny because it seems like quite tonally sort of kind of out of left field because it doesn't really fit in. But I kind of saw it and I thought this could be a bit fun.
Oh, to be fair, I remember us talking about sweaty armpits and that was quite funny. So let's rock with this, whatever this is going to be.
Yeah, but I don't want this to take too long either.
Nah, don't worry about it. Go on.
But yeah, I was. It's funny you should mention Cinema Sins.
Oh,
because this is also the thing I'm about to bring up is also reminiscent of another popular YouTube video called Watch Mojo.
Oh, Watch Mojo. They do lots of top 10s, don't they?
A top 10, you say? Well, I've got a top 10 for you. I saw this, and I guess I'm only really bringing this up, but I'll go through the list.
Okay.
But like, the funny thing is, I don't agree with the top one, and neither will you, and that's what's cool.
Oh, okay. Some controversy. and debate.
And we love it. Well, there's no debate as you've got two like-minded people in a room saying, well, this website is bloody crap.
Yeah. Go on then, what's this top 10?
This top 10 is the top 10 revolutionary scientific theories.
I already know what the first one should be, and if it's not what I think it should be, I'm going to be mad.
It's almost as if you've gotten on to exactly why I brought this up.
For the interest of time, do you want to reel off maybe like, I don't know, 10 to 3 or something, or 10 to 4?
Well, no, I'll name the cool one, the ones that I know and I'm fond of.
Okay. Go on then.
At number 9, you've got game theory. Do you know that one?
Remind me. I'll be like, oh yeah, obviously.
Well, so that's the one that sort of works. It works quite broadly in economics, but also in social constructs and stuff. It's basically the theory that there's something to be gained and something to be lost from whether you're sort of altruistic and you work together.
Yeah.
It's that classic of if your mate says yes. The popular example is the prisoner game theory thing, right? Which is that if you grass your mate up and your mate grasses you up as well, you both get 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
If you
if
you grass and he keeps quiet, he gets the full 10 and you get nothing.
Yeah.
If
he grasses you up.
If the opposite, then you get... But if you both say nothing, maybe you only get 3 years each.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you can trust each other to do the right thing, then it's in your interest to just take the 3 years.
That's to do with animal survival and stuff like that, isn't it? Okay,
right,
so that's
that
number
one.
9. Okay.
Plate tectonics comes in at number 7. I like that one.
Is that simply just...
Tells you about earthquakes.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
Statistical mechanics coming in at 6. Special relativity, courtesy of Einstein, coming in at number 5.
On the survival of the Thickest Podcast. Go on.
That is far too complex for us. Moving on swiftly.
I need a tree.
Hey, look. Where's my wheat? Well, I tell you what. 5, 4, and 3. So you got the special relativity, general relativity, and then quantum theory coming in at number 3.
I do know a bit about quantum theory, to be fair, but go on.
And now we come to the top 2.
Top 2.
The top 2. Now, if you were to decide what was the most revolutionary scientific theory, what's your number 1?
Okay. Well, my number 1 is based probably not on the way this theory was found out or the way that it was discovered. I don't feel like it was particularly remarkable in the sense, but I feel like it was remarkable in changing the way that the common man perceived the world. Obviously, the theory of relativity and quantum and stuff like that is very important, but to everyday people, it doesn't really matter.
It's an esoteric, esoteric pursuit.
But the one that I think most people know and kind of understand and should understand is the theory of evolution.
Tell you what, it's interesting the way you bring this up. Right, you're saying this is the common man's. This is the common man's
thing.
But
it was just my point that it was not particularly like it was found out in a particularly clever way. It's not like it was remarkable and like it was more just the fact that what was said was so revolutionary and mind blowing. As in,
see now I'm in a difficult position where I'm actually you having said that, I'm willing to now agree with this article. Okay?
Go on then. Okay,
because
what's yours?
What I'm going to tell you is that evolution came hot in at number 2.
Well, first the worst, second the best, eh? But go on.
And it's so interesting that you should bring it up as like, now the common man knows it, and it's kind of worked out like that.
Yeah.
Because at number 1 is heliocentrism.
Oh, right, okay.
That is that's more common knowledge.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
That's a 7-year-old saying, okay, well, we're the Earth, and we go around the sun. Nothing revolves around us except the moon. We revolve around the sun.
to be fair,
and
that is...
and now that I'm thinking about it, evolutionary and by natural selection is the important thing, because that's Charles Darwin. That's his thing. It was his book. But of course, there were ideas along the line of evolution long before, with people like Lamarck and I can't remember any more off the top of my head. Maybe George Cuvier, but you'd have to look that up. But they all had some evolutionary thinking in their field in like the 1700s, 1600s, so on. Right? But heliocentrism was one guy that says, no, this is completely different to what you've been told.
Well, I mean, it was...
now everyone knows it. Literally everyone knows it and understands it.
Yeah, I mean, as I did a space module last year, or I did a couple, and it was like you say, there were many scientists that had ideas about evolution before Charles Darwin, and there were many scientists who had ideas about heliocentrism and stuff like that before. I can't remember who originally...
Copernicus.
There you go. Before it was originally, worked out. My debate about... I don't know I don't know what this top 10 is based on, but my point on evolution is that I feel like, in terms of what we can do as a species, evolution is something that we can have a lot more of an effect on. Obviously, it's a natural...
Sorry, we can have an effect on, so like your artificial selections.
Yeah, so for example, we can use evolution to our benefit if we wanted to, and we can use it. It's obviously we don't always have control over it.
And we do, like
exactly
on a regular basis.
But the fact of the matter is the fact that we go around the sun and the moon goes around us and stuff like that. I mean, obviously,
but as a revolutionary idea.
I think they're on par. I think they both turn around and say the Bible's
play
load of
by
rubbish.
the rules of the article.
I mean, I don't know what the rules of the article are, but I just think
there
that...
are no rules.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Most top tens on the internet have a very loose, arbitrary scale of
No, I think both of them obviously they both. The common theme here is that they both denied the words of the church, and I think that's obviously. However you put it, to do that is rather controversial. I don't know. Yeah, I get your point. I can see why. It's just the fact that...
I can see why it's there. I think it just hits home for us in the sense that, I don't know, it's kind of touted for us as like, not only is that our past that we should respect and think is really cool, but it's also our future entirely. And there's nothing we can do about...
My only other thing is... to see heliocentrism, I can't even say it. I think that's about right.
You've got it.
To see that, it's a lot easier than it is to see evolution. Not in terms of practically. Obviously, it's probably not easy to go to space. But to stand on the moon and go, yeah, that looks pretty round to me, or, I'm going round the Earth, is a lot easier than to see evolution. I think that's...
You're right, but only in the sense that... because, of course, not being funny, but evolution is... easy for us to see merely by comparing a cat and a dog, or a cat and a fish, or a cat. We're back to cats.
No. But I mean, like, I know this sounds kind of silly, but if someone didn't,
there's no proof to us, like that about this ancestral thing. Well, of course there is the proof, but you can't just look at the two of them. I see what you mean and go, well, they're obviously related.
And that's why I think the theory of evolution is better. And I think we've got an excellent clickbait title there of Theory of Evolution Not That Good, or something along those lines, but I won't do that. But there's an idea.
I think you probably should, just to rake in the sort of the sort of militant Dawkinites,
of which I could possibly be seen as one of them.
Well, undoubtedly. But
to finish on, speaking of views, I just wanted to say thank you very much to two YouTube commenters who we had on our Aphantasia podcast, Onion Meister, which I think is a cracking username, and Sketch and Skits, which I also think is a cracking username. They put some rather insightful and kind of, opening up comments about their kind of issues and how they deal with aphantasia, and I thought it was just very nice of them to do so, and thank you for putting them and just showing a bit of interest.
Yeah, and on that note, we'll wrap up here, but of course we've had some kind of mixed number of views.
Yeah.
Like podcast by podcast. So if you like these, but you like some more than others, we would love to hear about what you want to hear about.
Yeah.
Because this is a sort of a learning process for us. We're sort of winging this as we go. But we'd love for this to be as good and as satisfying for the listener as it can be. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Speaking of learning things, we're going to have to crack on with another semester. We will be back in a few weeks' time, I hope.
To moan about really getting into the
Actually, in 2 weeks' time, I'll have a deadline to hand in a report, so we'll see how that went.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Me listening to this in 2 weeks' time, or whatever, I hope I did it. I'm sure I did. Right then, it's quite late. I think we're done. Yeah?
That sounds good to me.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to Survival of the Thickest. As we just said, if you enjoyed it, comment what you think is good, comment what you think is bad. We'll listen to both of them, and we'll see you next time.
I have to, just quickly, the host's non-negotiable, unfortunately.
The one with the annoying laugh, get rid of him.
Feel free to comment, but that will achieve nothing.
Oh dear. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Survival of the Thickest.